The night it all began felt too perfect to be real. The golden light spilling from my parents' dining room made everything glow: polished glasses, white linen, even my mother's forced smile. I remember standing at the doorway, clutching a bottle of wine I couldn't afford, and wondering why Grandma Margaret had insisted on this dinner. "You're late," my mother, Lorraine, said as soon as she saw me, her tone sharp despite the smile she flashed for the guests. My brother, Adam, was already at the table, laughing a little too loudly, his fiancée leaning into him like they owned the room. My father, Richard, sat at the head as usual, half listening, half calculating, always more comfortable in control than conversation. But Grandma, she was quiet, watching everything like a judge waiting for the right moment to strike. Her eyes met mine briefly, and for just a heartbeat, I saw something there I hadn't seen before: resolve. I took my seat, the air heavy with perfume, tension, and unspoken things. Dinner began as always, Adam talking about his promotion, my mother pretending to care, my father nodding as if each of Adam's sentences were gospel. I smiled when I was supposed to, pushed food around my plate, and tried not to think about how invisible I felt in that house. Then Grandma spoke. "Amelia," she said, setting down her fork with a deliberate grace, "how do you like the cottage?" I blinked. "The what?" The whole table went silent. My mother's hand froze midair, wine glass trembling. "Mother," she said sharply, "what are you talking about?" Grandma looked right at me. "The cottage I bought you," she said simply, as if she'd mentioned the weather. "By the lake." I stared at her, confusion tightening in my chest. I think you're mistaken." "No, dear," she said with a small smile. "I never am." My father's fork clinked against his plate. Adam's fiancée leaned forward, eyes wide. My mother's smile cracked into disbelief. "You bought her a house?" Grandma dabbed her lips with her napkin. "Not just a house, Lorraine. A future." I didn't realize it then, but that one sentence, "a future," wasn't a gift. It was a test, and by the time it was over, every truth our family had buried would be dragged into the light. The silence that followed Grandma's words was the kind that doesn't just fill a room, it devours it. My mother's face went pale, her carefully painted smile fading like melting wax. "A future?" she repeated, her voice trembling with disbelief. "You bought Amelia a house, and you didn't think to mention it?" Grandma Margaret's expression didn't change. "I didn't see the need for approval," she said, her tone even, almost pleasant. My father cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the moment. "Mother, that's incredibly generous, but surely we could have discussed this first. Amelia doesn't need a lake cottage." "Doesn't she?" Grandma asked, her eyes never leaving mine. "She's been living in that tiny apartment downtown, working herself half to death. While you two were busy helping Adam get on his feet. Tell me, how many times has he been on those feet now?" Adam stiffened. "That's not fair," he said quickly. "You gave me that loan because you wanted to." Grandma tilted her head. "A loan that was never repaid," she murmured. "And yet, here we are, pretending fairness is a family value." My mother slammed her napkin on the table. "Enough," she snapped. "This is supposed to be a nice dinner." "It still can be," Grandma said calmly, "if we stop pretending." I felt my pulse racing. The room was closing in, every word sharp enough to cut through years of politeness. "Grandma," I started softly, "you don't have to do this for me." She looked at me with something like pride and sorrow all at once. "I'm not doing it for you, dear," she said. "I'm doing it because of you." My mother's hand gripped the edge of the table. "You always favored her," she hissed. "Even when she did nothing to deserve it." I blinked, stunned. "Mom, what are you?" "Don't," she snapped, eyes flashing. "You've always been the victim, haven't you? The quiet one, the fragile one. You think just because you didn't ask for anything, you're owed something now?" I sat frozen, my throat tight. Grandma's voice cut through like steel. Lorraine, she said sharply, you will not speak to her that way. She doesn't need your protection, my mother shot back. She needs to grow up. She needed a chance, Grandma said, her voice soft but firm. Something you never gave her. My father stood, his chair scraping across the floor. That's enough. This conversation is over. You're right, Grandma said, standing too. But the truth isn't. She turned to me and placed her wrinkled hand gently on my shoulder. Come by tomorrow, Amelia. There's something I need to show you. My mother's eyes narrowed. What are you planning, Mother? Grandma smiled faintly. Let's just say, Lorraine, I'm tired of watching you build your world on my silence. I didn't know it then, but what Grandma showed me the next day wouldn't just change how I saw her, it would unravel every lie my parents had ever told about who we really were. The next morning, the sky was heavy with gray clouds as I drove to Grandma Margaret's lake house, the same one we'd visited when I was little, where the air always smelled like pine and the water shimmered with sunlight. But that morning, the lake looked different, darker, quieter, like it was holding secrets. Grandma was waiting for me on the porch, a mug of tea in her hand, her posture straight as ever. You came, she said, smiling faintly. I wasn't sure you would. Of course I did, I said, still shaken from last night. You said you wanted to show me something. I do, she replied, motioning for me to follow her inside. The living room looked just as I remembered, books stacked on the table, old family photos lining the mantel, the clock ticking softly in the corner. But when Grandma sat down at her writing desk and opened a worn leather folder, I knew this wasn't just a visit. Everything in here, she said quietly, is about your parents. She handed me the folder, and my heart began to pound as I flipped through it. Bank statements, copies of legal papers, property transfers, all with names I recognized. What is this? I whispered. Proof, she said simply. Proof that they've been using my accounts for years. And that Adams company, that fancy startup of his? It was funded with my money, and registered under your father's name. I stared at the pages, disbelief turning to nausea. You're saying, they stole from you? Grandma nodded. They called it borrowing. Promises to pay me back that were never kept. They even had me sign documents I didn't understand back then, trusts, partnerships, investments. Until last year, when I started reviewing everything. That's when I saw what they'd done. She leaned back, her eyes sharp but sad. They've tied their debts to my assets, Amelia. If I die, everything they owe me disappears. My stomach dropped. They planned this? Grandma looked at me with the kind of weary honesty that only comes after decades of disappointment. Your mother always thought she was smarter than everyone else. Your father let her believe it. But this isn't about money anymore, it's about control. And I've decided to take that away. How? I asked softly. She smiled faintly. By changing my will. You'll inherit everything they tried to steal. I froze, my mind spinning. Grandma, that's dangerous? She finished for me. Yes. But necessary. She stood and walked to the window, watching the lake ripple in the wind. They've had their chance. Now it's yours. My throat tightened. They're going to hate me for this. They already do, she said gently. The difference is, this time, you'll have the truth to protect you. I thought I understood what Grandma meant by truth, but 2 nights later, when my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced, I learned that the truth doesn't just protect you. Sometimes, it burns everything else to the ground. It was just past 10 when the pounding started at my door, sharp, angry knocks that made my heart leap into my throat. I hesitated before opening it, and when I did, the sight on the other side froze me in place. My mother stood there in her robe, her hair disheveled, her eyes wild with fury. Behind her, my father looked grim, exhausted, and very sober for once. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me before I could respond. Lorraine, stop, my father started, but she cut him off. No, Richard. She's part of this now. My apartment suddenly felt too small for their presence, their tension filling every inch of air. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my distance. You know exactly why, my mother snapped. What did she tell you? What lies did my mother fill your head with this time? They're not lies, I said quietly. I saw the documents, Mom. The accounts. The loans. Her face twisted with disbelief. You think you understand what you saw? You've always been so naive. Stop talking to her like that, my father muttered, rubbing his temples. She's not the enemy. My mother turned on him. Oh, isn't she? Because thanks to your mother and your daughter's little alliance, we're about to lose everything we've worked for. I stared at her. You mean everything you took from Grandma? That did it, her eyes flared with something dark, something desperate. You don't get it, do you? She said, stepping closer. You think Margaret's some saint? She's been controlling this family for decades. Do you know what she did to us when we were young? She cut us off every time we tried to build something of our own. That's not true, I said. She helped you. Helped? My mother laughed bitterly. No, Amelia. She kept us dependent. Every gift came with a chain. Every dollar had a condition. You're too blind to see that she's just using you as her final punishment. I shook my head, heart pounding. She's trying to fix what you broke. Fix? My mother hissed. By giving you everything? You, the daughter who left, who never called, who never lifted a finger for this family. I felt the sting of that, but I didn't flinch. I didn't lift a finger because I wasn't allowed to, I said. You made sure of that. For a moment, no one spoke. My father looked away, guilt written all over his face. My mother's lips trembled, but her voice stayed sharp. If she rewrites that will, we'll fight it. And if you think she can protect you when she's gone, you're a fool. Then she turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. My father lingered for a moment, his voice low. She's scared, Amelia, he said. And scared people do stupid things. I met his eyes. What about you? He sighed. I'm not sure what I am anymore. Then he followed her into the night. I thought that would be the end of it, but 2 days later, Grandma called me again, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it, to tell me she'd made one final change to her will. And that's when I realized she knew time was running out. 2 days later, my phone rang just as the morning light crept through my blinds. Grandma's voice on the other end was calm but faint, the kind of quiet that carried weight. Amelia, dear, she said softly, I've just come from my attorney's office. The will is finalized. I sat up, already uneasy. You changed it again? Only slightly, she said. I've included a clause your parents won't like, but it's necessary. What kind of clause? I asked, though part of me already dreaded the answer. One that ensures the truth can't be buried after I'm gone, she said. If they try to contest the will, the entire financial record, their fraud, the transfers, the forged signatures, will go public. My breath caught. Grandma, that's dangerous. They'll be furious. I know, she said simply. But I'm done letting fear run this family. It's time for consequences. I heard her sigh softly through the receiver. You remind me so much of your grandfather, she murmured. He always said that love without honesty is just control in disguise. I smiled faintly through the lump in my throat. You sound tired, I said. Promise me you'll rest. She chuckled. Rest is for the peaceful, dear. I'll rest once I know you're safe. But something in her voice unsettled me. It was the kind of peace people find when they've already made their final decision. We talked for another few minutes, about nothing and everything, before she said goodbye. I didn't know it then, but that would be the last time I heard her voice. The next morning, I got the call from the hospital. A heart attack, they said. Quick. Peaceful. My phone slipped from my hand as the words sank in. By the time I reached the hospital, she was gone. My parents were already there, my mother with her makeup perfectly done, my father standing stiff beside her. When she saw me, Lorraine's eyes were cold, unreadable. "You must be happy," she said quietly. "You got what you wanted." I stared at her in disbelief. "She just died, Mom. And left you everything," she snapped. "Don't pretend this wasn't her plan." "Stop," my father said sharply, but she ignored him. "You think you're the victim, Amelia, but you're not. You're just her weapon." I felt something break inside me. "She loved you," I whispered. "All she ever wanted was for you to do right by her." My mother laughed bitterly, eyes glistening. "You're just like her, always judging, always pretending righteousness while holding everyone else in contempt." She turned to walk away, and I heard her mutter, "Maybe now we'll finally be free of her." But freedom, I realized, wasn't what she wanted. She wanted control, and without Grandma, she was losing it by the second. That night, alone in my apartment, I opened the last voicemail Grandma had left me just before she died. Her voice was soft, fragile, but steady. "If you're hearing this, my time's up," she said. "Don't let them twist what's right. And remember, Amelia, truth has teeth. Use them." I didn't know what she meant then, but a week later, when her lawyer gathered us for the reading of the will, those teeth finally sank in. And when they did, they drew blood. The air inside the attorney's office was thick with perfume, tension, and barely disguised hatred. My parents sat on one side of the long oak table, their posture rigid, hands folded too neatly to be natural. I sat opposite them, trying to keep my breathing steady. Grandma's lawyer, Mr. Henley, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, shuffled through the papers in front of him before speaking. Margaret Evans was very clear about her wishes, he began. And given recent complications within the family, she wanted her final instructions delivered in full transparency. My mother crossed her legs and forced a smile. "Let's get this over with," she said. "I'm sure she's left something for everyone." Mr. Henley adjusted his glasses and began to read. As the familiar legal phrasing rolled out, bequests, property divisions, trusts, the room remained eerily still. Then he paused. "To my granddaughter, Amelia," he read, "I leave the lake cottage and its surrounding property, along with all funds contained within account 7B under the Evans Trust." I froze, unable to breathe. The number didn't mean much until Mr. Henley added, "Account 7B currently holds $1.4 million. My mother gasped audibly, her hand flying to her chest. My father muttered something under his breath, his face turning red. But Mr. Henley wasn't done. Additionally, he continued, "Should this will be contested by any party, the attached addendum authorizes full disclosure of all financial records, transactions, and correspondences between myself and Mr. and Mrs. Richard Evans." He looked up, his eyes meeting my parents'. "That includes documentation of the misappropriation of funds and the falsified signatures Mrs. Evans submitted in prior dealings." For a full 5 seconds, no one spoke. Then my mother shot to her feet. "She had no right," she shouted. "Those documents were private lies." Mr. Henley's tone remained measured. "They were verified by 2 separate auditors. This is absurd," she snapped, turning to my father. "Richard, say something." But he just sat there, shoulders sagging, eyes on the floor. "Lorraine," he murmured, "it's over." "No," she said, her voice breaking. "It's not. I won't let her do this to me again." She spun toward me, eyes burning. "You think you've won? You think she loved you more? She didn't. You were just her tool to humiliate us." "I didn't want this," I whispered. "I wanted peace." "Peace?" she spat. You just inherited everything she stole from us. No, I said quietly. I inherited everything you threw away. The silence that followed was the kind that leaves scars. Mr. Henley cleared his throat gently. There's one final instruction, he said, handing me a sealed envelope. Mrs. Evans requested this be given to you privately. My fingers trembled as I took it, the weight of the paper feeling heavier than gold. My mother's voice cracked behind me. You'll regret this, she said, her tone venomous. You'll regret ever choosing her side. I stood, meeting her gaze for the last time. I didn't choose sides, Mom. I chose truth. And as I walked out of that office, envelope in hand, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, not victory, not relief, but the quiet ache of freedom. I thought Grandma's final letter would bring closure, but when I opened it that night, what I found inside revealed a secret even she hadn't spoken aloud. A secret that would change how I remembered her forever. I sat on my couch that night staring at the sealed envelope, my fingers tracing the faint indent of Grandma's handwriting. My heart wouldn't settle. I'd thought the will had been her final word, justice, closure, maybe even peace. But something about this letter felt heavier, personal, like it held the one truth she hadn't trusted anyone else to read aloud. I took a deep breath and broke the seal. Inside was a single folded page and a small old photograph, black and white, creased from age. The picture showed a young woman standing by the lake house, smiling shyly beside a man I didn't recognize. On the back, written in neat cursive, were 4 words, "Your mother's real father." My hands shook as I read the letter. My dearest Amelia, it began. If you're reading this, then you already know what your parents did. But there's one more truth I kept from you, not to protect myself, but to protect them. Your mother, Lorraine, was not Richard's daughter. Years before I married him, I fell in love with someone I could never have, his best friend, Samuel Harris. He died before Lorraine was born, and your grandfather agreed to raise her as his own. I told myself it was for the best. But she always sensed she was different. The resentment you see in her, the coldness, it's rooted in that truth. I don't ask you to forgive her, but I do ask you to understand her. I stopped reading, my chest tight. All my life, my mother had acted like love was conditional, like family was something you had to earn. And now I finally understood why. She'd been living a lie built for her before she was even born. I read on. I didn't tell her, because she wouldn't have survived it. But you, my dear, you're stronger than all of us. Don't carry this as a weapon. Carry it as wisdom. Because one day, she'll try to rewrite history again, and you'll need to decide whether to keep her secret or expose it. I folded the letter carefully, my mind spinning. I thought of my mother's bitterness, her endless need to control, her fear of losing everything. This wasn't just about money, it was about identity, shame, and a lifetime of silence. I picked up the photo again, staring into the face of the man who was technically my great-grandfather, and felt a strange mix of sadness and clarity. My grandmother had spent her whole life cleaning up the wreckage of one choice, and now, she'd handed me the last piece of it. The question was what I was supposed to do with it. I didn't realize it then, but Grandma's secret wasn't just a confession, it was a key. And when my mother showed up at the lake house a week later, desperate and uninvited, that key would unlock the final confrontation neither of us could avoid. A week later, I returned to the lake house, hoping to find quiet in the place Grandma had loved most, but peace was the last thing waiting for me there. The autumn air was sharp, the water rippling under a pale sky, and as I stepped onto the porch, I noticed a car parked out front, my mother's. My chest tightened. She was sitting on the swing, wrapped in a long coat, staring out at the lake like she was trying to remember what calm felt like. "You shouldn't be here," I said softly. She didn't turn right away. "I didn't come to fight," she said finally. "I came because this is the only place I can still breathe." I stayed by the door, wary. "You made your feelings clear at the reading." "I know," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I've had a lot of time to think." She finally turned to face me, and for the first time in years, her eyes looked tired, truly tired. "You got her last letter, didn't you?" My heart skipped. "How do you know about that?" "Because she left me one too," she said quietly, pulling a folded piece of paper from her pocket. "She told me the truth. About my father." I froze, gripping the doorframe. "Then you know." She nodded, eyes glistening. I knew something was wrong my whole life. I could feel it every time she looked at me. Love, yes, but guilt too. And I hated her for it. I hated her for keeping me in the dark. She looked away, her voice trembling. "And now that I know, I don't even know who I am anymore." I took a slow step forward. "You're still her daughter, Mom. And she loved you, even when you couldn't love her back." She laughed bitterly, tears streaking down her cheeks. "She loved her idea of me, not me." "Maybe," I said, "but that's still love. Flawed, human, impossible love." She stared at me for a long moment before shaking her head. "You sound just like her." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," I said. For a moment, something shifted between us, like the air had finally cleared after a lifetime of storms. Then she whispered, "So what will you do with it?" "The truth?" "Nothing," I said firmly. "It's not mine to use. It dies here, with us." My mother exhaled shakily, a sound somewhere between relief and regret. She stood, glancing once more at the lake. "You're a better woman than I ever was," she said softly. "No," I replied, "I just had the chance to learn from your mistakes." She nodded once, then walked past me, her perfume fading with every step. I watched her leave until her car disappeared down the road, the silence that followed heavy but healing. For the first time, I didn't feel anger toward her, only pity for the years she'd lost to bitterness. I thought that moment on the porch was our ending, but a week later, as I opened Grandma's final note hidden inside the cottage wall, I realized she had left me one last message. Not about the past, but about what I was meant to do next. I found the last note by accident. I'd been cleaning the small guest room in Grandma's lake house, dusting the shelves and sorting through old books when a loose plank near the window caught my attention. Inside the narrow gap, tucked between two boards, was a small envelope sealed with her familiar cursive handwriting, "For Amelia, when you're ready." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a tiny brass key. "My dearest girl," the letter began. "If you found this, it means the house is finally quiet again. I didn't build this place to hold secrets, I built it to heal them. For years, our family mistook silence for strength and pride for love. But strength isn't about pretending nothing hurts, and love isn't about control. I failed to teach that soon enough, but I believe you will." I glanced toward the window, the lake glimmering faintly under the afternoon sun, and felt tears prick my eyes. The next line made me press a hand to my chest. "The key belongs to the cedar chest beneath the floorboards of my study. Inside you'll find deeds, journals, and enough resources to turn this house into what I always dreamed it would be, a refuge. Not just for you, but for anyone who needs to remember that family doesn't have to mean pain." I sank to the floor, the letter trembling in my grip as I read the last lines. "I watched you grow into everything I hoped this family could be: honest, kind, unafraid to face the truth. Don't let my mistakes become your story. Write your own, and fill this place with laughter again. That's all the legacy I ever wanted." I wiped my eyes, then followed her instructions, prying up the corner board beneath her old desk. The cedar chest was still there, dusty but intact. Inside were property papers, bank documents, and an envelope of cash, enough to repair and reopen the cottage. But there was also a stack of journals, each one filled with her handwriting. I flipped through a few pages, entries about my mother's childhood, about the choices she regretted, and one short line that broke me completely: "Maybe one day Lorraine will forgive me. But if she can't, I hope Amelia will forgive us both." I sat there until dusk, the weight of everything she'd carried finally making sense. For the first time, I didn't feel like the forgotten daughter or the victim of my parents' mistakes. I felt like the ending of one story and the beginning of another. That night, I locked the lake house and walked down to the dock, the brass key warm in my hand. The water reflected the stars like scattered diamonds, and I whispered into the wind, "I'll take care of it, Grandma. I'll take care of all of it." The ripples carried my promise across the lake, soft and endless. I didn't inherit her money, her house, or her power, I inherited her truth. And with that truth, I finally understood that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's rebuilding something better from what they tried to ruin.